And breaking news just in, from the Brave Park Studios. Good morning, Barry Fair with you. A very happy Barry Fair here. And before we get on to today's show, I have two bits of good news. My house has been approved in Sydney, which was, this is what the phone call was all about. Do you remember how we discussed about being patient? Well, I think it has all paid off. And joining me now for episode 47 and 48, a very good morning to a proud Mark English, and welcome to episode 47 and 8.
Thanks, Barry. Great to be here. Great news. And as you say, patience has paid off. It probably seems like it's taken forever, but at least has happened with a minimum of stress and happy days. Now you can move forward and make some plans.
And sadly, out and about will conclude in 3 months' time. Here's Mark.
Well, if it concludes in 3 months' time, we've got some planning to do. Try and get the most out of it.
Yep. So, just going over some of the topics we've talked about so far on Out and About, and that is phone manners. We know we've hammered on about it, but if you don't hassle people and let them do the job, okay, their job will be easier. Here's Mark now to open episode 47 today with that.
Absolutely, Barry. Your patience has paid off, and I suspect that this is as quick as it was ever going to happen. So keeping calm and just letting it happen. Now it's come to fruition, and it's been a minimum of fuss for you just by sticking to your own rules of not getting agitated and upset and giving people a hard time. And then quite suddenly they ring you up with the news.
And all of a sudden, bang.
Good news hits you.
And it went bang, 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 bang. And on Friday, I knew that something good was going to happen. So, guys, 3 more months of Brave Park. So that is 12 weeks. Here's Mark.
Yep, so 12 more weeks. So taking us through into the end of January, late January by the sounds of it.
Like, yeah, probably.
Yep.
So we'd like to discuss how Brave Park first originated. Well, I came up here in April, okay, and I was not well. My first 4 days here was not very good, but I won't go too much into that. And then in May, I began to feel homesick, and then I had a big meltdown, which I regret. And then in June, you know what happened on episode 21, don't you? Bang. my offside Mark here, and I got COVID. Here he is to tell you about it.
Yeah, so we went out to Scarborough, and by the end of the day, you had flagged badly. And
Is that your phone?
yes, it is.
I will just pause that. Welcome back, everybody. This is a very excited Barry Bear here. Here's Mark to tell you about it.
Yeah, so Barry absolutely scored some good news. The news that you've been waiting for months, but finally something positive. And now it's just a matter of organising everything and then actually making the move. So thank goodness that you're at the stage where you can think about organising the move rather than organising the approval of the move.
So like we say, if you don't have some people all the time, ladies and gentlemen, it will make the job easier for them. Here's Mark.
Yes, unfortunately, every time they take one of those phone calls of dissatisfaction, which always seem to take a fairly long time, they're actually not achieving anything for the day. So, left to their own devices, they can in fact get a lot more done.
So we're going to give an example now before we head off. Say this was Mark, right? And he received some bad news. How would he take it? Here's Mark.
Badly. It just depends on what sort of bad news. You get bad news during your life. It's unavoidable, and you've just got to choose to deal with it in a way that either sorts it out or puts it behind you, whatever it is that's appropriate for the bad news you receive.
But as we said on many of the videos we brought, do not, and we repeat, do not play the blame game. Here's Mark now.
Yes, if it's because of a breakdown of communication or a breakdown in systems, then it's just a matter of trying to get those things fixed. It's, the bad news has already come, so it's about trying to rectify it rather than find blame and abuse people for it happening in the first place, because then you still have to sort it out.
But don't sit in here, guys, and sulk like a 5-year-old, because is anybody gonna tolerate it? Of course they are not. Here's Mark.
Yes, your displeasure with the world is not everybody else's concern, and as a consequence, they still expect to be able to interact with you in a civil way. So it won't go well if your bad mood spills over into other areas of interaction.
So we're gonna go out and celebrate this milestone now. And here's Mark.
Well, I'm not sure what we're doing to celebrate, but I am looking forward to the fact that we're celebrating.
So and we will celebrate today and tomorrow and into the weeks to come. Here's Mark.
Well, I'm looking forward to it. I do like a celebration. So if we're going to keep it going for weeks, I'm very happy about it.
So let's close the show and get organized.
All right.
Close the first part of the show, and we'll see you very soon.
See you soon, everyone.
Well, good morning, everybody. Here we are on taxi number 2444, and we're off to Indooroopilly now. Here's Mark now.
Alright, so yes, we're tripping our way to Indooroopilly. Fairly long trip from Bray Park, so we'll probably be 45 minutes in the car.
So, how a meter works, well, we've explained this before. So when the driver is driving, it will tick over. Here's Mark.
Yeah, so it's set to a certain fee for distance. So as Bruce makes progress, it's a very simple equation for it to tick over at the allocated whatever per kilometre. And then if you're sitting in traffic, it also measures time, and just to keep things fair while drivers aren't moving, they're still getting a bit of money for their time, but it's obviously not very much.
So, like I've said in the earlier session of in the studio, I had some news to tell you. The Out and About series will not be continuing in the form that it is now. Sad for the Queensland viewers, of course, but at the end of the day, I have to make the right move. Here's Mark.
Yeah, absolutely, Barry. You've got to look after yourself first, and particularly knowing that you weren't overly happy with your circumstances here, and the fact that you were homesick and missing your friends and your family from New South Wales. It's not a surprise that you want to go back.
And I knew straight away that this was going to happen a few weeks after I moved in. So I say, yep, this is a program worth celebrating. And we will continue this at Indooroopilly. The time is 4 minutes past 11. This program is proudly brought to you by Black and White Camps. Well, we've come to the end of another episode as usual. And here's Mark to recap my good news.
Yes, so after literally months of trying and not really understanding the responses, because no one could, Barry's finally got approval in writing for his move back to New South Wales. So great excitement. It has been something that you've been wanting virtually since you got here, to be honest, Barry.
Yeah.
And happily, at last, it is now official. So planning for the move itself, rather than planning of the planning of the move, can go ahead now.
And I have every right to be happy about it, and so I should.
Absolutely.
So we hope that you've enjoyed today's episode of Out and About. Here's Mark.
Yeah, so once again, we've had a lovely jaunt to Time Zone. Just as well you haven't got a gambling bug, Barry, that's all I can say. So I can see how poker machines might be a thing. But obviously a great time was had, and a huge lunch, I have to say, even by your standards, Barry. That was a big lunch. And but the chips were beautiful, I have to say.
They were. And tomorrow we'll be back with you from 10 till 4. So stay with us. And the number that we rely on 24 hours a day, you know what it is. And that is 000. Please do not ring that number unless you've got an emergency. Here's Mark to close the show with that.
Yeah, thanks, Barry. And as always, I'd just like to mention that if the emergency services are being distracted and having their time filled in by people who actually don't have an emergency and don't require them, it just means that somebody who does is going to be either left waiting or miss out altogether. So please be mindful that it's only there for emergencies, and one day we might all need that.
So until we see you tomorrow on the next show, Barry Fair and Mark English bidding you bye-bye.
Bye-bye for now.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the continuation of episode 47. This is Barry Fair with you. We're sorry that we were unable, or I was unable, to bring the Injured Pilly episode to you on YouTube. But that's YouTube for you. And joining me now, here's Mark. Good morning to you.
Morning, Barry. Morning, all.
So, today we are going to go out, but not until later on this morning. So, it is the 1st of November today. And my word, how 2022 has gone like the... Here's Mark now to open the rest of episode 47 with this.
Yep. Well, it's been it's an unpleasant day today, and yesterday our sound man had a few issues, and consequently that's the reason that we can't bring the Indooroopilly section to you. It was just too poor quality to put up. So here we are, and as Barry said, hasn't the year flown by?
And my good news from yesterday, which I will share with you also, while it's good, happy news and sad news, okay? Unfortunately, like I said yesterday, the production of an About will not continue in this format. Here's Mark now.
Yes, it's going to change when Barry moves back to Sydney, of course, and our loss is Sydney's gain. But I'd much rather see you happy and whole in Sydney than not so happy and not so whole living up here. So I'm happy that you're moving.
Yeah, so like I've said, I have enjoyed bringing the show to you since April. Here's Mark.
Yeah, it's been an adventure for you, moving away from all your support networks and friends and family, and moving up to Queensland for an adventure, and then finding that the circumstances just weren't going to be right to have the life that you wanted up here. and of course you got homesick, which was something that you hadn't had to experience before. So now you know the value of friends and family.
So we all know it's coming up to Christmas, guys, but guys, friends and family may mean a lot to you and to everyone and to Mark, but don't spoil Christmas. We will talk about it on the next episode. Here's Mark.
Well, I'm new to the subject, so once we've had a chance to chat about it, I'll know where we're headed.
Well, it is important to behave well during Christmas and don't act the fool. Here's Mark.
Well, if it's about being safe and keeping other people safe, absolutely. We're all in the mood to have fun at Christmas time, but it needs to be somewhat sensible fun so that we stay safe and keep our friends safe.
So there is absolutely no need to feel unsafe during Christmas. But we will talk about that as when it gets to the time. Here's Mark.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to today's episode and where we're headed with this. So stay tuned.
So we're sorry that we've had to redo some of episode 47. And for those that are not feeling the best, get well soon. Here's Mark.
Yes, take care. It keeps reminding us we keep flirting with the bugs that are going around, one way or another. But so far, Barry's stayed away from it since his bout of COVID. So hopefully, we recognise that bugs are rife at the moment. And if you are unwell, take care of yourself.
And don't come to work if you're sick either, guys. Here's Mark.
Yes, hopefully the one thing that we learned during the COVID pandemic was that if you're sick and you stay away from work, that other people there don't necessarily get sick. It's been a bit more obvious with the other bugs, to be honest, that there seems to have been very little other disease floating around during our time of distancing and isolating and wearing masks, etc. So it's a good lesson to learn that if you're sick, stay away from other people who aren't.
So don't spread your germs around like raspberry jam on toast. It's not a good spread, guys. Here's Mark.
I disagree with Barry. I think raspberry jam on toast is a great spread.
Raspberry jam is great, but not germs.
Not germs, you're dead right.
So I wonder what we're going to continue episode 47 on and leading on to episode 48 today. Well, stay tuned to find out, guys. Stay with us. We'll put you in the picture. Once again, sorry that we've had to delete part of Inverpilly because it didn't work out very well. Here's Mark.
Yes, as I said, the sound quality was not good enough to go up, so we had to can that particular segment, and of course that was the one that we did on site at Indooroopilly. So we're missing that particular piece of footage.
But don't worry, we will find something to replace it. Here's Mark.
Yes, I'm sure that Barry's been scheming once he realised it wasn't going to work and come up with some ideas for a segment to replace it.
And we're going to do that, so stay with us, guys. We will put you in the picture. It's 12 here. Now usually we will be out and about, but due to the weather it's not very good. Here's Mark now. Good afternoon to you.
Thanks, Barry, and good afternoon to you too, and all your listeners and watchers. So, yes, it's wet, but more importantly, it's Melbourne Cup Day, and the number of taxis that want to trip around away from racecourses and restaurants and bars would be very few at the moment. So it's not looking hopeful for our taxi in the short term.
But it doesn't matter because it's a wet, horrible day anyway, so if we don't get one, we don't get one.
Exactly right.
So anyway, if your horse wins, good luck to you. If it doesn't, then better luck next year. Here's Mark.
Yes. The old, blindfold and shove a pin in the paper to see which horse is going to be my horse is my method for picking horses. But as I generally forget that it's on, as usual, I haven't even looked at a form guide and have not picked a horse or placed a bet. So, hopeless for Melbourne Cup economy.
So bet with your head, guys, not over it. Here's Mark.
Nice pickup, Barry. Very nice pickup. Yes, what can I say? Gambling.
Because don't let gambling, guys, take control of your life. Here's Mark.
Oh, absolutely. It's one vice I've never had to worry about, but I certainly see a lot of it around, and advertising would suggest that it's the biggest industry in Australia. So, be careful and take the advice that the very short snippet at the end of every betting ad gives you, which is, bet sensibly.
And gamble responsibly, guys. And don't borrow money from others either. But anyway, today's episode of, the continuation of episode 47, which we will do today here in the studio. We're going to talk about how my Out and About series began again. Now, it began on the 30th of May, but we didn't call it that back then. Here's Mark now.
Yeah, so back on the 30th of May, my first meeting with Barry and our first trip out and about, and learning curve for me all round. And obviously Barry knew what he was doing, but I certainly didn't. And so since then, we've formed a good working partnership.
And the episodes are piling up, guys. But like I've said, unfortunately, the show will be over in 12 weeks. Here's Mark.
Yes, well, Barry's good news about the move back to Sydney means the demise of Out and About in Brisbane. So when that move comes to fruition, then we will have the final episode of Out and About as well.
The 2 final episodes.
Well, you never know, Barry, because one of them, the final episode, might actually be the move.
It could well be. So guys, we sure hope that you've enjoyed Out and About so far. Here's Mark.
Yes, we'd like to make it more interactive and have a bit more, I suppose, conversation with people that watch the show. So if you've got suggestions or questions, please get in contact with us so that we can use some of that to create some content for you.
So it is important, guys, to keep watching the show each and every week. So you don't know what Mark and I will get up to. Here he is.
Yep, every day is an adventure. So when I turn up, it's usually, well, what are we doing today?
In the studio.
In the studio today? Well, we usually start them all in the studio. So in the studio is half the show, and then the other half is the Out and About. Well, the Out and About bit is always the mystery for me.
Yeah, but today I don't think we'll do Out and About because I don't think we've got a cap.
It doesn't look like it, that's for sure.
And good thing Neil didn't turn up because he's on another job. Here's Mark.
Yes, all the regular taxi drivers obviously had bookings for today, and not surprising given the number of taxis that get used, particularly during the day on Melbourne Cup Day. So I'm not really surprised that we're struggling to get a taxi.
And I'm going to exercise on my bed later on today. Stretch the legs out. Get out of the chair a bit. Exercise there. But Out and About, we sure hope that you are enjoying it. Here's Mark.
Yes, well, I think we've got to keep going with as little feedback as we get at the moment, and hopefully a bit of feedback would help us make either changes if we needed to, or certainly give us some sense of direction.
So guys, I only got this news yesterday because I found out about it. Well, as I said, the news came through on Friday and I was almost out of the chair, so to speak. Here's Mark.
Yes, your excitement level was very high. So obviously I didn't see you until yesterday, but I knew that you were excited as soon as I arrived, and then you gave me your big news, so I could understand your excitement.
And don't be surprised if I fall out of the chair over the coming months. Hopefully I don't get the guys in green to pick me up. And that's the ambulance. Here's Mark.
Yes, well, hopefully it's just a figurative coming out of your chair rather than a literal coming out of your chair. So, although, you know, if we end up back at the bridge and some of those street crossings, there is the potential for you to come out of your chair.
And we will take a break. Stay with us. Welcome back, everyone. Barry here in the studio, and welcome along to you. And this program is in the studio today. Here's Mark.
Yes, bit of a miserable day out, and taxi issues with Melbourne Cup Day. So, not a surprise we've been left languishing here at home, and there'll be no outing today.
But on Friday this week and next week, we have, if you want triple the fun, guys, we've got it for you. Here's Mark.
Yes, as fate would have it, we're going from 2 to 3 a week for the short term. So for the next 2 weeks, we'll be doing Fridays as well.
So join us then. So before we end episode 47 and go on to episode 48, the number that we rely on 24 hours a day, you're going to get sick of hearing it say it. Don't bring us 3 donuts unless you really have to. Here's Mark now.
Yeah, absolutely. It's emergencies only, and we just want to keep the lines clear for people that are having emergencies.
Like me, for example. Here's Mark.
Well, potentially anybody. But Barry, you've had occasion to be calling the ambulance on a number of occasions, and you know you don't want to be left waiting.
So, as we leave you now to go over to episode 48, stay with us. Here's Mark.
Yeah, we look forward to seeing you for episode 48, and sorry we couldn't bring you more for episode 47, but weather and fate have intervened.
Okay, so bye for now.
Bye, everyone.
Well, good afternoon and welcome back to In the Studio, and this is episode 48 now. Welcome along to you. Now, usually we would be wrapping up our session about and getting in the cab to come back here, but not today. And why? Because it is Melbourne Cup Day. And Melbourne Cup, well, have fun, guys, but with your head, but not over it. Here's Mark now to open episode 48 in the studio with that.
Absolutely, Barry. So, you know, I'm not a gambler, so I don't know what betting over your head is. So, but if you're spending the rent money on anything other than the rent, it's never going to end well.
And people are not going to trust you if you borrow from them. Okay, so be careful. Now, on to the show out and about. Well, you know, since May 13, Mark and I have been bringing to you out and about. Our very first episode began on a dreary Monday when we went across the Story Bridge. Here's Mark to take you back to where it all began.
Thank you, Barry. I'd forgotten that it was a dreary Monday. Not only was it dreary, I remember it was raining because I had the umbrella out as we were crossing the bridge. So, very dreary day. And as I've said before, the first time Barry and I had met, well, not met, but the first time that we'd been out. And there was a big learning curve for me.
And we went to the bank first, and then it was Many Road crossings, and we can tell you they were an absolute pain in the neck. Here's Mark.
Yes, pain in the neck for the figurative speech, and potentially a genuine pain in the back, because the only way to get your chair through some of those crossing ramps was by literally heaving it to try and get it to move forward enough to get the back wheels to touch again. So it was just about muscling the chair through the ramps to get it up onto the footpath, and we got there in the end, but I certainly learned I don't want to be doing that very often.
Well, your back is important, guys, but as we were crossing the Story Bridge, or getting up onto the bridge itself, there was a lot of a problem. I can tell you, getting onto the bridge, a lot of road crossing the road a lot, I should say. What a pain. Next time we'll drop straight at the door, I think.
I think our wisest course of action is to get dropped at the door, so to speak. It was really only that we needed to go to the bank, and everyone knows that bank branches are few and far between these days. So there was a fair hike from the one down near James Street to get back up to the Story Bridge. And as I said, my first time, I didn't know any different. I think Barry had his concerns, but also knew that we would get there in the end. So, but I think it probably took us an hour just to get from the bank up to the bridge because of the difficulty in crossings, and some of those streets as you head towards the bridge become extremely steep. So, well, certainly for the wheelchair. And, we had to trip along a bit to find a slightly flatter road to get up.
And when we got off the bridge, I got bogged a few times. So again, not very good access. So I think we'll get dropped straight at the door, like I've said.
Yep.
And that was our first episode. Now, on the way back, we went along the gateway, but the driver stopped the meter before the end of the journey. Here's Mark.
Yes. In fact, he stopped it well before the end of the journey. We were still near Nudgee on the gateway, which is not very advanced. And
it was costing 12 cents something.
No, it was already over $90.
Already,
and the trip in cost $65. So we had a long way to go before we were going to get home.
And that was our very first episode. And then the second episode, where did we go? Well, we went to Scarborough, I think.
Was that really our second episode?
No, it was Strathpine the second. But we did a video in the studio first.
Yep.
And then that was episode 20, the second appearance.
Yep.
And then on episode 21, which we know very well. Okay,
That was the COVID condition.
that was the start of COVID, and I had a mask on that day. Here's Mark.
Yes, well, we were wearing masks for nearly all day because, in the house that you live and the taxi at the time, we all had to wear masks. And as you started to flag, we kept our masks on. And you're right, it was only our third time together, and you got COVID, and then
That was on the conclusion. I couldn't even conclude episode 21. And also we visited Morgan Seafood. And what was worse, guys? Well, we waited an hour and a half for the taxi to come and get us, which was terrible. And well, I got given some throat lollies as well. Here's Mark.
yes, well, luckily Pete and Sal, who we know, happened to be staying in a caravan at the caravan park there, and while we were waiting, I happened to see that their dog was the dog I was looking at through the fence. So we had a little catch up, and Pete and Sal luckily had some cough lozenges for you and some water. There were a few drinks getting around as well.
And by the time we got back here, when
you were already done for by the time we got back here.
And by the time the staff did the COVID test, bang, the 2 drops, the 2 lines showed up. Here's Mark.
Yes, and then we missed the next week because you were still in isolation. And then the next week, I developed COVID about the day before. So we missed that week. So we had a bit of a disjointed start to the series.
Very disjointed start indeed. But then, on Friday, July 8th, we had a tragedy in the studio. But we won't go into that. And then on the 11th, well, from that day, from when the tragedy happened, I was on my own. Here's Mark.
Yes, it did leave you as the only resident in the house. And as you say, leaves you alone. And yes, it was a very difficult time for you.
And I was just pause that. So it left me feeling very lonely for the next couple of weeks or so. But again, I will not go into that. And then on Monday the 11th, we trooped out to Scarborough again and did a lovely video and looked at the boats. Here's Mark.
Yeah, so Scarborough's a beautiful spot, right on Moreton Bay, and views to the northern coast area, out to Stradbroke Island. So on a clear day, it's just glorious looking out across the bay.
So, and then in August, in June, at the end of my COVID, I thought I had been improved. and I hadn't been, so that was on the 27th of June. But I had some very misleading information from the NDIS back then. Here's Mark.
You should explain that one, Barry, because I'm not 100% over the NDIS situation back then.
Well, I thought I was being approved for that house, but not the big. That was the saddest piece of news I ever received. Here's Mark.
Yes, I remember you were very upset about I can't decide if it was a communication breakdown or your request got lost in the minutiae of the routine reassessments that are required annually, but it certainly created the impression to you that it was about the move, but as it transpired, it was just about the standard annual reporting cycle.
Yes, it was. And so in September, still nothing, but the show went on, and we visited Indooroopilly a fair few times. You will be able to see those videos. Here's Mark.
Yes, we did visit Indooroopilly a number of times. I do blame your new love of time zone, of course, and it does absolutely light your eyes up. So I can see the sheer enjoyment you get from being able to spin the wheels and
win big.
and win big.
And here's Mark to tell you about that.
So it sounds like we're about to become spruikers for some gambling site.
Well, not gambling.
No, but you've won big on the tickets from Time Zone. So managed to score quite a few bonus tickets in the thousands. So you've now got a serious number of tickets on your card, which eventually is going to let you purchase something quite flash from their shop.
And if you're thinking of that perfect Christmas present from someone, why not buy them something nice with your points?
Absolutely. And, depending on what you like, but there's certainly, there are games and jigsaws and bags and purses and, in amongst a whole bunch of lollies and chocolates and stuff. But some of it's very worthwhile.
Well, we're now into October, or November, and in 12 weeks' time, if this show, which you are watching now, will be finishing.
Well, it'll be transforming. Yeah, you're not going to stop doing shows.
No, it will be transforming.
You'll have a new co-host.
Well, you'll be invited to the last show here, of course.
I hope so.
Well, you will be. So, our last episode, we're gonna do it in reverse. Like as we said yesterday in the camp. There's a saying, the adventure ends as it began. Here's Mark.
Well, by then, it will be full circle, won't it? Because you were new up to Brisbane. You'd just come up from New South Wales. It was a big adventure. and of course circumstances just were cruel because you moved up in the height of the pandemic, and which meant you really couldn't get out and travel very much at all. And then, as you say, you got left in the house on your own. And when I say on your own, you were the only resident. So very lonely, even though there are staff here. But it's...
And still doesn't cut the mustard.
Yes.
Here's Mark.
Yeah, so between that kind of isolation and homesickness anyway, you'd come to the conclusion that realistically you wanted to be back in New South Wales, close to family and friends. Very wise decision, I might say.
So we do hope that you've enjoyed our series of out and about so far and how I put the show together. But in all fairness, the problem really started when the airline couldn't get this chap onto the plane, and it had to go on the next day's flight. And another problem, I caught pneumonia when I got sick during the en route up here to Brisbane, so it was not very good at all. So that's what started it all off.
And didn't you arrive and go straight to hospital?
I did, yes.
So inauspicious start for for anyone when you think about it. You know, you put all that time and effort into moving to a new place, you know, full of the excitement that comes with that unknown adventure. And the first thing that happens to you is you get off the plane and end up in hospital with pneumonia.
And was not a good start.
No.
So I didn't eventually get here until the 5th of April, so 6 days out from my 47th birthday. I managed to get through my birthday and Easter without any hospital admissions, but another one before that, which I won't go into. But then on the 26th of April, again, another hospital admission, but this time in the short stay unit. So I'm full of anxiety then. So out and about wasn't thought of until a month later, and then I put on my goals to return to NSW. So that is what's gonna happen. And this is how far out and about it's got. We've been to Shorncliffe, to Doug's Seafood there. Here's Mark.
I've forgotten about Doug's Seafood at Shorncliffe.
That was a beaut day there.
That was a beaut day and great seafood, I've got to say. Really enjoyed the food we got from Doug's, so big raps to Doug's Seafood at Shorncliffe.
And it was a very good one too. So if you're ever in the Shorncliffe area, guys, drop on into Doug's Seafood, you will love it. Here's Mark.
Yes, well, got a bit of a seafood theme, haven't we? Although it tends to be seafood near the seaside, so Shorncliffe having seafood from Doug's on the foreshore, and exactly the same except Morgan's at Scarborough, also right on the water. So Makes perfect sense, really.
So, we hope that you've enjoyed today's episode in the studio of episode 48 and the continuation of episode 47. We are sorry that we couldn't bring you out and about today, but stay with us on Friday because Mark will be back again with you. I will be back, and who knows where we might go. Here's Mark.
Yes, I'm keen to explore some new areas, and I think after the show today we'll have a bit of time to do some research, and I think we should look at a couple of places to potentially visit.
And let's visit Redcliffe
Mm-hmm.
because they've got a lovely spot for us to do the show there.
Have you been out on the new pier at Redcliffe yet?
I have.
We might have to go out there, get the wind rustling through your hair.
And remember guys, if you're going out, before you go out, check your weather. Here's Mark.
Yes, well, we always check the weather regardless, just to see whether we're going to be tripping far or close, and it's invaluable to know in advance whether there's going to be rain or not, because obviously, well, we haven't been caught in the rain, and I expect that the chair's rainproof, but I don't really think it's going to be very much fun to you get soaking wet in your chair, Barry, and then be stuck in it.
Well, no. So, anyway, stay tuned for that. Okay, so before we do go today, the number that we rely on 24 hours a day, I've said it before, and we'll say it again. Please do not, and we repeat, do not call 000 unless you have an emergency. Here's Mark now to close
Thanks, Barry.
the show with that.
Yes, absolutely. Emergency services need to have their phone lines clear to deal with people that are having emergencies. And obviously, if their time is taken up with someone pranking the service, then potentially one of us who needs emergency assistance is going to miss out or have it delayed, potentially dangerously. So it's just a consistent message of respect for both the service and the people that need the service.
So don't be an idiot with that number. And we will see you on Friday for episode 49.
Look forward to it.
And we will look forward to bringing it to you.
We'll see you then.
And we'll see you then. Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye all.